and so on in Libya, they can come and have free treatment in Tunis. So this sort of action will make the Libyans feel that they are not left alone. And
you're right, it would make them feel like they weren't left alone, but you know, without being too pessimistic, UN Security Council resolutions don't necessarily have a great history, and you're dealing with a regime, a country that doesn't really listen to anyone, let alone the UN Security Council.
Listen, at the moment, the Libyans did not have to wait for the Security Council or for the UN or for anybody else to do what they have done. If the Security Council, if the international community wants to do something, it will be useful. It may be symbolic, it may be just you know, something to wave in the air, but at the same time, it is important. And if they don't do, the Libyan people will carry on and do whatever they can themselves.
Arshad Shamus is the editor of an electronic newsletter dedicated to Libyan affairs. He's in London for us. Thanks for your time, your thoughts and analysis. Also, Osama Kurbat in the studio with us. Let's take a breath for a moment, because there has been so many developments in the last 3-4 hours that I've been on air alone, and certainly before that there were plenty of developments. Caroline Malone has put together this report wrapping up all the events.
Calling for an end to the regime in Libya has been a death sentence for scores of demonstrators. Crowds running away from gunfire in Benghazi. Emergency services rush to the scene, but for many, it's too late. Posters of Gaddafi, defaced with the words, "The tyrant, the infidel has fallen." Many buildings now bear the scars of heavy ammunition. Shoes are thrown at a wall showing scenes from a speech made by Saif Gaddafi, the leader's son. He'd said that his father would not step down without a fight.
The
leader, Muammar Gaddafi, is leading the battle, and armed forces are with him, and tens of thousands are coming to Tripoli in his support. We will not give up Libya. We will fight until the last man, the last woman, until the last bit of energy.
Thousands of people gathered to honour those killed, chanting, "Gaddafi is the enemy of God." The people of Libya praying for their dead. Scenes repeated across the country where devastation is clear.
Our psychological state is totally destroyed. What compensation can we get that can help us cope with the loss of our children? The total destruction of our city. Our children cannot be paid for. Their lives in cold blood will not be forgiven.
On the streets of Tripoli, rare video, showing people chanting the same lines that pro-democracy demonstrators used in Egypt and Tunisia before their uprising led to the toppling of their respective leaders. Caroline Malone, Al Jazeera.
So those are the latest developments over the last 2 or 3 hours. So much of what we see, we do almost automatically draw parallels to what happened in Egypt. Certainly the idea of contagion is there. We're going to go to Egypt now, talk to Andrew Simmons, who's live for us in Cairo. Andrew, we'll look at that idea in a moment. First, the talk of evacuations. Can you extrapolate on that for me, please?
Yes, we've just been hearing from the Foreign Ministry, which has been saying that the Supreme Army Council, which is ruling Egypt right now, has requested the army to evacuate something like 1 million Egyptians living in Libya, many of them skilled workers living there, many of them expatriates. Not everyone wants to leave, but the vast majority do. We've had reports that 100 buses are actually heading for the border with Egypt to evacuate these people. They have Egyptians on board, and the army says it will facilitate their transit. And the Foreign Ministry is warning Libya that it regards Libya as being in charge of the safety of Egyptian nationals. Now, tents have been set up on the border, which is about 800 kilometers away from the capital, Cairo. And so a major operation going on there to get these Egyptians out. And of course that warning, and also some concern about Saif al-Islam, the son of Gaddafi, some concern about a statement he made warning that Egyptians had been responsible, partly responsible for the uprising, and definitely a veiled threat there about the safety of Egyptians within Libya.
You used the word uprising, Andrew. You saw one with your own eyes from that position there in Cairo. We draw a lot of parallels. What do you think about that? Well, maybe in amongst the parallels, what about the differences that you see?
Well, massive differences. Talking to the activists here, much support and solidarity, demonstrations outside the Egyptian embassy today, Monday, and also on Sunday, and also in the second largest city in Egypt, Alexandria, demonstrations actively protesting against Gaddafi, with pictures with the faces marked out of Saif and Colonel Gaddafi himself. But the activists here talk of the bravery of the Libyan protesters, what they faced. The start of their demonstrations were very similar to Egypt. They were definitely inspired by Egypt's revolution, and the pace of events have taken a much faster, violent turn. Little the activists here can do. There's not much they can do on the internet because communications are down. There isn't anything practical they can do apart from try to assist in humanitarian plans, and there are plans by NGOs to try to get some sort of convoy across the border to try to help their Libyan fellow protesters. But the situation, of course, also relates to the army, because, yes, you have two countries that are ruled by military leaders, but you have there the similarity ends, because the Libyan army is much smaller. It takes its orders directly from Colonel Gaddafi, self-styled, quite a bizarre type of leader, and you have militia there. Militia, unlike Egypt, a much more disciplined army here. The army here is regarded as the guardians of the country, whereas in Libya it's been used against the people. Effectively, Libya has declared war on its own people. So you don't have many similarities between the revolution going on now in Libya and the one that happened here, apart from its inspiration and its inception, the start of it, and of course the determination to succeed. And also, you have a tribal system in Libya which is quite complex, unlike Egypt. Whereas here it was a secular campaign against Mubarak. It wasn't in any way, there were no tribal disputes involved, whereas Libya, we're hearing very strongly that the tribal disputes are heavily involved in this, and that Gaddafi can't even rely on his own tribe right now in trying to put this uprising down.
Thank you for that, Andrew Simmons, live in Cairo, giving us some good perspective there. Certainly looking at all the pictures coming out of Libya, it's easy to get caught up in and look for direct parallels with what happened in Egypt. Certainly if there is regime change or a fallen regime, there would be a lot of similarities, but Andrew pointing out there how it changes as well, the differences as well. Let's go to London. Barbara Serra's there for us to talk us through some more of the international reaction. European foreign ministers meeting today, among other things. Barbara, all yours.
Indeed, Kamal. And of course, remember that many European leaders had extended the hand of friendship to Gaddafi in recent years. Now, many of them are just wondering where he is. And the most intriguing comments on that have come from the British